Did you hear that?
hmm Yeah.
Okay. Will you spell your name and then you can identify however you want? And
Yeah, so my name is Heidi Bechtel. It's spelled Heidi. Last name is Bachtel. And then now I go.
okay, we'll probably cut your last name out, but
Oh, okay.
okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
You never know who's gonna see this, so Heidi's
Yeah,
fine.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's all you. Take it
Okay, cool.
away.
Awesome. So, hi, my name is Heidi. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I'm currently 33 years old. And for a major part of my life, I suffered from opiates and benzo addiction. And my main spiral started when I was 24 years old. But before I get started on that, just kind of my early life, I grew up with pretty financially stable middle class family. I lived with my mom and my two brothers, and I saw my dad on the weekends. My mom, unfortunately, she was pretty emotionally and physically abusive. So growing up, um, me and my brothers, we were just terrified of her. It was like a war zone, I would say, just like you never knew what was going to upset her or set her off. So as a young child, the way that I learned how to deal with that was just to go inward. And I became very quiet. I made myself very small. And that was my way of being safe and not attracting attention from her. Thankfully, though, my dad was really loving and he was the light in my life as a child. I would see him every other weekend. So it helped. It didn't completely undo the damage from my mom, but just having him in my life, it kind of showed me like what was actually normal and what love was like. And he was the greatest dad, like he really was. And we still have a great relationship to this day. Whoever watches my Instagram, like they'll see like me and my dad together and we're giving each other crap and we have a really good relationship and I just really love him a lot. Growing up in school, I did really good. I did sports. I wasn't like a bad kid. I had good grades, never got in trouble. But I just had really bad anxiety. And one of the ways that I used to medicate it was with Xanax. And the first Xanax that I ever got was actually from my mom. And I don't remember how old I was when she first gave it to me. I think I might have been like middle school or something. I don't remember what was quite going on. Like I wasn't sleeping well or something like that. And she gave me a Xanax. And I remember just really liking it and being like, this feels really good. And I really like this. And being a shy, anxious child, like that's what I wanted. I was like, I want more of this. And there's actually a few times where I'd gone into my mom's bathroom and I had taken some of the Xanax from her. And looking back, that was pretty dangerous. But being a child, I didn't really know any better. I just wanted that feeling. Um, so when I was 24, my spiral downhill basically started after a breakup. And before that, I would kind of use Xanax on and off. I got some from a doctor, from like PTSD, from like the child abuse and things I had been through. And I wasn't quite like medicating with it so much. Like when I would go to a party, I would maybe like instead of drinking, I'd take a Xanax because I just liked how it felt better. Um, so when I turned 24, that was when things really went downhill. So I had a breakup, and I remember the guy, he had made some comment about my nose and how it was too big. And I had been bullied for having a big nose my whole life. My mom had told me I had a big nose, that I was ugly, and that I needed to be fixed. And so I had this ingrained idea that there was something wrong with me. So basically, what I did is after this breakup, I was like, all right, I'm going to get a nose job and then I'm going to go to Southeast Asia for a trip because it's something I've always wanted to do. This was just my way of being like, fuck the world, fuck everything. I'm just going to do what I want. Um, I stopped going to school. I quit my job and I got the surgery and it did not go as planned. It got pretty fucked up. The doctor, he did way more than I had asked. I had just wanted a very slight thing done, but when I woke up, I had this very tiny Barbie nose, and the difference was pretty shocking for me. So when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize my face, and it created this weird disassociation between my sense of self and my anxiety just got even worse. And I remember telling the doctor that and being like, I'm kind of fucked up in the head right now. Is this normal? And he's like, oh, yeah, you'll get used to it. He prescribed me some Valium. Of course, that wasn't what I really needed. I probably need to go to therapy. Um, but my trip to Southeast Asia was in 2 weeks, and I still wanted to go because I had spent the money. This was something I wanted to do. And what I did is I just kind of compartmentalized this trauma. So I was like, all right, I'm kind of fucked up right now. I'm just going to kind of put this away, and hopefully if I just kind of ignore it, it'll get better. Um, so I went to Southeast Asia. I backpacked around for about 5 months, and I went to like Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, and I was just slowly like deteriorating mentally. And one of the reasons was because in these countries, you can get drugs really easy. You can buy Xanax, you can buy pain pills. Like when you're walking down the street, people come up to you and they're like, hey, do you want ecstasy? Do you want heroin? Do you want this? So it was really easy to get anything I wanted. So I was kind of living like this kind of hippie backpacker lifestyle of like going out and partying on the beach and like getting high and like doing mushrooms and like swimming in like bioluminescent plankton. And it was like it was my dream of everything I'd wanted to do to go travel. But mentally I was just like so fucked up. My anxiety was so bad. I was just using drugs so much. I became dependent on diazepam when I was out there. I remember I kind of tried to like get off of it, and I just had this massive panic attack, and that was when I was like, oh man, I'm kind of fucked. Like I'm basically like hooked on this stuff now. And so basically I'd been out there for about 5 months, and I was starting to run out of money, and I either had enough money to fly home or I had enough money to fly to Australia and buy a work visa. And I wasn't ready to go home. I kind of wanted to keep this whole thing going. Because I knew if I went home, I would have to face everyone that I knew. And part of my plan with getting the nose job and then running to Southeast Asia was like, oh, I'll have time to heal, and then I'll come back and it'll be like 6 months or a year, and people won't really notice that I did something. But the change was so dramatic. So I was like, I'm fucked. I was like, when I get home, everybody's gonna know. And like my swelling was pretty bad. Like my nose for a while, it was really pushed up. Like it kind of looked like a pig nose. It was like really bad. And I was just like, dude, I'm so fucked. Like I fucked myself up. And being a girl, like that's a huge deal. You know, you're just like, dude, my fucking face. Like I can't believe I did this. And so I decided to go to Australia because I needed money. So I got a work visa. And I was there working. I got a job cleaning pools, and I was staying with some Aussies that I'd met when I was backpacking in Australia. And the job was cool. I was like cleaning pools at like these mansions, and it was pretty chill. But I started to run out of drugs, and I was like, oh shit. And like I actually went to the doctor, and I had tried to get some drugs and was like, hey, I get Xanax in the States. I need some here. And they were like, no. And I was like, oh shit. I don't know what I'm going to do. Um, so my depression started getting worse, and I started going into withdrawals. And just like the final straw, so I was basically already like circling the drain. I was like just mentally fucked, bad anxiety, withdrawals. And I was coming home, and I was followed by a guy. And unfortunately, I was walking, and I remember getting hit from behind and being dragged, and I was screaming. And unfortunately, I was like sexually assaulted by this guy. And after that, like I don't really remember a whole lot, but I just basically kind of went into like a state of psychosis, and it just the trauma was so intense. Like I was already really like just fucked up, and then that just was like the last straw. Um, and I called my friend Kevin. I was talking to him, and I didn't tell him exactly like what happened yet, but I was like, hey, I was like, I'm suicidal. I think I might kill myself. And he was like, I was talking to him, I just remember him being like, hey, like, hang on a second. I heard like some typing. And then he was like, hey, I bought you a flight home. Get to the airport right now. Like, please come home. We'll figure this out. And I remember just being like, okay, like, fuck. So the flight home was like 10 hours. And I remember I don't even think I slept. I was just like in this, I remember I just had these recurring thoughts in my head about like how I wanted to die and I didn't want to be alive, and how I'd fucked myself up physically. I'd gone on this trip, and like even like my dad and some people were like, oh, you shouldn't go on this trip, it's dangerous, something bad could happen. And it was kind of like this like I told you so type thing. Like you shouldn't have quit school, you shouldn't have quit your job. And now you're in this situation where you're even more fucked up than you were before. And it just really sucked. So I get home, I'm living with Kevin, and Kevin at the time, he was struggling with a heroin addiction. So I was living with him, he was still working. And the night that I got home, he had offered me a Percocet, and he was like, hey, like, do you want this? Like, I know you're probably in pain. And I was like, yeah, like, I want it. So I took it, and it was like a moment of just relief. It stopped the constant thoughts in my head. And later on, I didn't find this out till later, but basically what had happened is the trauma had induced obsessive compulsive disorder in my brain, and I developed what is called pure O. And OCD, it's almost kind of like having Tourette's, but with your thoughts, and you can't control them. And they're very constant and they're very loud. So anything that happens, like if I watched a scary movie and if I saw like a bloody movie scene or something with OCD can grab onto that and it will just replay it in your mind over and over and over again. So with me, my OCD was just replaying my trauma over and over and over again, and I didn't know how to make it stop. It was like this record. So it was basically just like pure hell for about a month. And the way that I would get any relief from that was drugs, was Percocet. And I was also like smoking weed. Kevin had offered me heroin, but I was like, no, I was like, that was like where I drew the line for some reason. I was like, I'm not doing heroin. I was like, the pills are good enough. Um, so so Kevin and I, we were like together every day. Like we would get high, we would watch movies, like we were like each other's support person. Like he was there for me, I was there for him. He was going through this really bad divorce, and he had tried rehab, but he just wasn't having success with it. So out of desperation, this is maybe 3 months after I got back, he decided to go to a clinic in Costa Rica that did ibogaine treatment. So he went down there, um, and he did one round of ibogaine, and I remember him talking to me and being like, oh, it's really great, I think it's really working, I don't have any desire to use. And then he decided to do a second treatment, and unfortunately he overdosed and he passed away down in Costa Rica. And that was the hardest news ever because he was my person and he was my best friend. Sorry. And I remember just having all these mixes of emotions. Like I was so angry, and I also felt abandoned because we were supposed to do this together. We were supposed to get better together. Um, but I had like also this rage. I wanted to go down to that clinic and I wanted to burn it down and I wanted to kill everybody in it because they took him away from me. And um, so I was getting better, but then Kevin dying just kind of put me back down. And for the next 5 years or so, I used drugs on and off. I was in therapy, um, but I was just kind of staying constant. Like I got better enough to where I was able to work and kind of live a normal life, but I was still like pretty depressed. Like I just remember just feeling suicidal like all the time, like New Year's or any type of birthday. I remember just being kind of like, fuck this, I don't want to be here. Like, what's the point? Like, life sucks. And I was using Percocet and Xanax, and I was just numbing all of the pain, all the trauma. And there's a few instances where my use had gone pretty out of control. Um, my addiction was no one ever really knew. No one was ever like, hey, Heidi, I think you might have a problem or what's going on here. I hid it pretty well. Um, but the only time I got caught, I was on a friend's boat and like one of the guys on there had a bottle of Xanax, and while everybody was up above partying, I went down below and I went and stole Xanax. I took it. I'd been drinking, so I blacked out. The next thing I knew, I was on shore in the grass, and I'd been kicked off the boat. And the boyfriend that I was with at the time, he was like, "You were acting like a goddamn goblin." And I was like, "Oh shit." And I was so embarrassed and so ashamed because no one had ever found out. I'd never been caught, nothing like my whole life. That was the first time I'd been caught. And the next time I kind of had a bad experience was my regular dealer. She had her pills were prescription, so I had felt safe taking them. But there was one time she ran out and I was really desperate. So I went and got some pills from someone else, but they looked different. They didn't look like the Percocets I was used to. They were white and oval and they had some different numbers on them. And I Googled them on like drugs.com and they didn't match anything. And I was like, oh, I think these might be counterfeit or some fake pills. And I felt kind of nervous, but I was like, oh, if I just take a little sliver, just test it out, it'll probably be fine. And I remember I took a little sliver of it and I decided to like go do some errands. So I drove my car to like a Brown Bear car wash and I was like vacuuming it. And I just started to feel that like intense high. And then, I just remember kind of feeling like too high where you get that like metallic taste in your mouth and you start to almost feel pain instead of pleasure. And I was like, damn. I was like, thank God I didn't take that whole pill. If I was in my apartment by myself, I probably would have just OD'd right there. And that was when I took a real good look at myself and I was like, Heidi, I was like, you're risking your life to get high. You're risking everything. And um, I just went really deep and I thought about my family and if I died, how they would feel. And I thought about my dad and it just broke my heart because I knew how much my dad loved me. And if something happened to me, like just the thought of the pain it would put him through was heartbreaking. And I just couldn't do that to him. Even if it meant that I would be in agony being sober, I could not take the risk of overdosing again because I couldn't do that to someone I loved. And I would just do these visualizations every time I had this desire to use about like my face on the news or this girl, like girl ODs or something. And I was like, I don't want that to be my story. Like I deserve better. Like I can do better. I know I can. So from then I just decided to just stop completely. And it was going good at first, but then because I had been numbing all of that trauma and all of that anxiety, everything just came out with like a vengeance. And I started having panic attacks every day. And then the intrusive thoughts came back, the ones that I'd been numbing from when I was from that trauma in Australia. And they got so bad. I seriously thought I was going insane. I was like, there's something wrong with me. So I went to a community walk-in clinic and I got an evaluation. They diagnosed me with OCD. I started therapy. I never went to like NA or anything like that. I just kind of worked with a therapist and that helped me get clean. So over the course of a year, I had been sober, but I kind of did the thing a lot of addicts do where I put down the drugs and I pick up the fork, and I gained 40 pounds. And I felt better being sober, but then my self-esteem was pretty down. I didn't feel good about myself. I still felt kind of unhappy. And there was one morning I decided to Google like motivational videos, and I came across a video of Wes Watson, and his words just spoke to me. And I was like, wow, I was like, this guy, there's something about him. And he spoke about pain avoidance and self-mastery, and how if you can master self, you can master anything. And I was like, that's what I need. I was like, I had impulse with drugs, I have impulse with food. I was like, I need to learn how to do this. I need to stop numbing. I need to be okay with pain. So I got on his program, and his program is really rigorous. It was very intense workouts, very intense tracking your diet. Like, his whole point is inflicting adversity so that way you become comfortable with pain so you can handle it. And then when you're showing up for yourself every day, you gain self-esteem, you gain self-love. And through that process, my confidence blossomed, and I became proud of myself for the first time. Like, as a child, I never had self-esteem just from my mom. There was just no way I could develop it. And his program really helped me so much. So over the course of a year and a half, I worked with Wes, and then I decided to do his business coaching program. So I became a coach, and now I've been helping people, and it's been so rewarding. And um, since doing his program and gaining confidence, I went back to college and I graduated. My dad got to see me walk across the stage, and I did it sober. There's no way an anxious girl like me could have done that sober all that time ago. Um, Also, just me doing better helped my dad a lot. Um, like, he didn't really struggle too much with stuff, but I think just him seeing me doing so much better motivated him to stop drinking wine, and he's lost weight. He's lost 30 pounds. He's doing so good. And also, I fell in love with an amazing guy, and this guy had liked him for a long time, like 9 years. And there was a point where we had almost started dating in 2016, but I was still drug addicted. And I was like, if I date this guy, I was like, I know I'm going to fuck it up or I'm going to hurt him. And I didn't want to do that. So at the time, I pushed him away, and it was really hard. And I just remember just feeling like so much pain because I really liked him and cared about him. But now everything kind of came back full circle, and now we're dating and we have the best relationship, and I'm just such a much better person now. Um, so that's my story, and I hope that my story can offer some hope to show like you can come from below the bottom, like just mentally fucked, like you think there's no way coming back. And there was a time when I was thinking about suicide, and I remember thinking like, well, if I kill myself, I'm definitely not going to get better. I'm definitely not going to get out of it. But if I stay alive, if I keep myself alive, then even if there's a 0.1% chance that I can get better and I can make it out of this, then I want to see if I can make it. So I hope if my story, if anything, it can just show to just hold on, just do anything you can just to hold on. And if I can do it, you can do it. Oh,
Perfect.
how is that?
Real quick, like just roll into and say if you want to give us your social or
Mhm. Oh yeah.
your platform, just
Mhm.
as if you never stopped talking. Just
Yeah.
if
Okay.
you want to follow me or find me, you can connect me at these
Mhm.
places. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And if anybody wants to follow me or find me, if anybody wants to talk or anything, my Instagram handle is Heidi_Bechtel Fit. Or should I spell my name?
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay. So okay. So if you want to follow me or find me, my Instagram handle is Heidi_Bechtel Fit. That's HEIDI_. BACHTELFIT. Even if you have any questions or anything, or if you want some coaching, I'm here to help. This is what I feel like my purpose is to help people who have been through stuff like I have. So yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Perfect.